You're listening to Bramblewood Mamas, a nurturing community for project-based homeschooling, sharing practical tools to help you mentor your kids with confidence. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're so glad you found us. I'm Danica.
And I'm Kelly.
And we're Bramblewood Mamas.
And we are here to introduce a topic near and dear to our hearts, project-based learning.
I feel like project-based homeschooling is like the best kept secret in homeschooling.
I couldn't agree more.
It's like not many people know exactly what it is or the definition or the skills that you can learn through it, but everybody wants it.
Yeah, I feel like people know how to do projects, but to make it a way to educate your family or your child, that there's a method behind it is, like you said, the best kept secret.
It is. So we're here to bring that to you. So let's start off with introducing ourselves a little bit. Like we said, I'm Danica, and I have 5 kids. We started our homeschooling journey when my son was in first grade, and I felt like I never saw him. And so I decided we were going to take the jump and try homeschooling. And really, I was just so excited about what it could be. I feel like the possibilities were endless, and his education could be this amazing thing. And that was so enticing and exciting to me. So that's what started this. But we did a number of co-ops that I loved. I love having a co-op. I love having a community. But it still felt like most of them were classes. They were still kind of a traditional learning environment. And I really was looking for something different. If we were going to do this thing, we were going to do it in some kind of cool way that was more real to what I feel like learning should be. So then I discovered project-based learning, and it was exactly what I was looking for. But most of the resources out there are for public schools or charter schools. There's actually kind of a lot out there, but it was not made or published for homeschoolers. So I kind of had to translate stuff to our situation. And there was no program out there. I couldn't find any co-ops, nothing in our area at the time that was doing this. So we started our own. We started a program called Bramblewood Learning Community. And throughout that, I took a course through UPenn that was their PBL certification course. And that was awesome. It was so great. But again, I was the only homeschooling parent in there. But I kept thinking every single one of these is even better in homeschool than in a classroom. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Well, I am so glad that you found project-based learning and it was working for you, because that's how I was introduced to the idea. So I have been homeschooling. I now have a 10 and 8-year-old, and we've been homeschooling since COVID. My son was in preschool. I felt like I wanted to be a fly on the wall, and I was missing out on everything, even though he was only there 2 days a week. And COVID happened, and we pulled him, and I just fell in love with the flexibility and being able to watch him get excited about learning. And he was naturally driven to projects. So being able to do little projects here at home just felt very natural. And then we started Forest Fridays during COVID, which has grown drastically now.
And what is Forest Fridays?
So Forest Fridays, it's every Friday at 10 o'clock, and we rotate around different nature trails and parks and playgrounds. And we were super consistent in the beginning. And even though for the first, I would say 6 months, most of the time nobody showed up, but we always said Fridays at 10 o'clock, we are going out. We're going to be out in nature, and we're looking to build community. So come on out and join us whenever it works for your schedule. And now our Facebook group is up to almost 2,000 members, which is amazing. But yeah, then we found Bramblewood Learning Community, our second year homeschooling, and met Danica and loved project-based learning, just fell in love with, it made learning feel alive. It made the kids really engaged in the learning and getting excited about things. And and I feel like we've grown so much, and now we're excited to share it with everybody else.
I'm so glad you found it. All right. So let's get to know each other a little bit better and start wading into this topic here. Kelly, what is one project that you or really anybody in your household is working on right now?
So it started with a David M. Bird video on Beacorn people. Have you heard of this?
I've seen that.
So they're these little acorn people, and he's got like videos, and he has like a calendar of photos and stuff that he sells, but he takes these videos of little squirrels coming up and like eating strawberries out of the Beacorn people that he's created their hands, and the birds coming and eating bird seeds out of the acorn hats, and just these really like magical looking little figures out of acorns and nature things. And I showed my kids, and the next thing you know, where it's like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and we're scavenging the neighborhood for acorns and supplies. My husband got in on it, and he's creating houses for Beacorn people. So that's been a fun passion project the last couple weeks.
Isn't it the worst that the favorite time to start projects is right before bedtime?
That's when the inspiration hits.
I can't tell you the number of times my husband and I have heard like banging or laughing upstairs, like ridiculous times of night. And we'll be so frustrated. And then in the morning, they'll show us this like fantastic video they made together. And we're like, couldn't you just do it during the daylight?
So what projects are you guys working on now?
Well, I'm making a podcast. But for real, this has been a lot of learning going on here.
Yes.
But at our house, my oldest is a senior, which is so beautiful and so sad, all of the feelings, but it's really exciting because he had to apply to college. He had to apply for their music program. And that meant putting together a portfolio. He wants to go into commercial music production. So he's been recording music. He taught himself drums and guitar and bass, like all the things. And he's been messing around with recording and composing music for a long time. But this was really the first time he had to polish and finish really well some pieces, and it was really cool to see him cross that finish line and get those done. And it's awesome. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
So tell us something that has inspired you lately.
So on Thanksgiving, I went to visit my parents, and my mom gave me this folder of stuff that was from my childhood, old report cards and photos and all kinds of things. And in it was the welcome packet for a project I did or a program I did in middle school. It was a public middle school, but had all these awards for these different programs it ran that were project based. And it was a program called Monogassi, and it was like an enrichment program where they chose 56 kids to be in it, and everything was surrounding nature. So I wouldn't say it's full project based like we do now, where at least as a student, I didn't realize if it was project based or not, but we did camping trips, and we went, for our camping trip, we hiked 36 miles on the Appalachian Trail, spent the night in the woods. We camped and we set up teepees, we built sleds and trekked through the snow. So it was like a fully immersive project or program where, all the books we read, we learned all the owl calls. I still remember frog sounds. We made, insect boards with 25 different insects, and you had to label them all. So it was a really cool project. It was neat to reflect on all of that when my mom gave me the packet of stuff. So
that is so cool. I still can't believe that was if all public schools were like that, there would not be half the people fleeing to homeschooling.
Yeah, I completely agree. That program stuck with me. The things I can still remember half the owl calls that we learned.
And it's something like it's cool that you have now come full circle and are doing that kind of educating for your own kids.
Yeah, that's like now when I look back and I realize that is the experience I want to create. I want to create something. I want my kids to have that experience where they are excited about what they're learning, and it's so excited about it that it sticks with them. So what is inspiring you lately?
Well, I started reading this book with a couple of other ladies. It's about Socratic discussions, which is another passion of ours. And kind of this idea of leading with questions and diving into rich material. But this book has been really insightful. And I just loved this quote from it. It says, once a student's mind has become active and seeking, once the student is thinking about everything that comes before her, once a student is capable of understanding the algebra textbook and the physics textbook on her own, how one transmits knowledge becomes a less pressing difficulty. And that's by Michael Strong from The Habit of Thought. Although good luck finding it. If you find it somewhere printed, let me know, because I can't find it anywhere. I had to get a kind of a PDF version from somebody who had it from many years ago.
Wow.
But I love that idea that really our whole job is to help our kids' minds become active and seeking. Once they're in that mode of wanting knowledge and wanting to learn, nothing can stop them from learning. And then they'll eat up anything. It almost doesn't matter how you educate them at that point. Once they're at that point, they'll learn it. They'll learn everything.
I love that.
So how do we get there? And how does project-based learning fit in with this? Let's give a definition. This definition comes from PBL Works, which is an online resource that shares about PBL. But they say project-based learning is a method in which students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an authentic, engaging, and complex question, problem, or challenge. It's kind of a mouthful. Kelly, if you had to just describe, and you have a million times. I think if you talk to Kelly for 5 minutes, you'll hear about project-based learning.
I can't help it.
But if you had to describe it to somebody just really briefly, what would you say?
Yeah, so I would say that you take a project and that's what drives all of the learning. So instead of taking like maybe for a unit study or something, a whole bunch of mini projects all under one topic, instead you would take one project and you do all the learning through the lens of that project.
Okay, so it's kind of like taking, like, instead of having, we're going to do all this learning and then at the end do a big project to sum it up, we're sticking that project at the front end and then doing all of the learning as a means to do that project.
Exactly.
So it gives a meaning for everything that you're learning.
And then the kids are driving it. They're asking, hey, I need to know this in order to do this project. Can you teach me about that? Or can we find resources or research this? Because I need to know it in order to do that project, which is really cool to see.
It is cool. It's cool to have kids saying, hey, I need to learn how to read a chemical formula because I'm doing this chemistry project.
Or I want to make these really cool drinks. So I need to learn about density in order to know how they're going to layer. So again, taking that project and having the kids drive the learning through them having questions about what they need to know in order to do it.
It's pretty cool. And it in its base, it's very simple.
Yes.
There's a lot of skills I think that we can develop as mentors to make it go more smoothly and to be more effective. But at its heart, project-based learning is just learning through a project. So hopefully that kind of simplifies it and clarifies it for you. So let's just give an example. So a while back, and it was actually Kelly's class, they did this project where their goal was to build a treehouse. They wanted to build a treehouse
on their property.
On their property.
They wanted to host classes in a treehouse on their property,
which is every kid's dream.
Yeah.
Right. So Kelly, kind of take us through what that project looked like.
Yeah. So we started with that question, like, how do we build a treehouse? And they had to go through all of the learning in order to be able to do that. So we made a need to know list and we walked through, all the workshops, and we needed to learn the math and scaling things and what kind of materials would you use and what were other tree houses that other people have built. So we had all these things that we needed to know. And then we started to explore them, research them. We read Swiss Family Robinson for inspiration. We went and, explored the woods and tried to find trees that would make. So we had to learn about earth science and different kinds of trees and what would be good ones. There were so many aspects of learning tied into this project. And then the kids started sketching out designs and making paper models of what their tree houses would look like. And they started working together to try and, collaborate their ideas, tie their ideas, because we were only going to make one and everybody had different ideas of what it looked like. So we worked through it that way, and they then built popsicle stick models and eventually a 2-scale model of their platform, and then had to present it at the end. And actually, they did a couple of presentations to you to get approval for things along the way. But yeah, so everything that they had to ask all these questions and find the answers in order to come up with this project. And in the end,
we ended up, they did get approval.
Yes.
We were going to build the treehouse, but then before it started, somebody was like, well, what if we built a Gaga pit? So when it came down to it, the Gaga pit won. Everybody wanted the Gaga pit.
Yep.
Which I didn't complain because that was way easier.
Yes, it was a lot easier. And now we have a great Gaga pit.
We do. Okay, that's a great example. So we are going to, you probably noticed, we have a lot of stories about our classrooms and stuff at Bramblewood Learning Community and the other things we've done, camps and things like that. But you can do this in just your family. It's totally possible and so worth it. It's amazing to take project-based learning into your home. So know that we'll have a lot of kind of classroom examples, but we'll also be sharing some personal and family examples too. And all of the principles work just as well in a classroom as with your family. So why project-based learning? Like, we are obviously very excited about this, but what can it actually do for your kids and for your home?
So I love project-based learning because kids are naturally motivated to learn about things. They have these interests and they want to dive into them. And oftentimes, I feel like when we've done curriculum in the past, you're getting this surface level knowledge base about maybe a time period or a topic. But oftentimes my kids find something that they're interested in and they are motivated to learn more about it. I mean, I remember the Percy Jackson phase where everything we did was Greek mythology. We knew everything about it. My kids naturally are motivated to learn more when they're interested in a topic. So the project-based learning is great because they can go deep. They can do real learning and create amazing things when they're motivated to do it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's that kind of them being when their mind is open and ready to learn, that when they're motivated, then it's easy. You can just sit back and, help them along the way a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember, and you can learn so much through any lens. Like I remember our oldest, he loved World War II airplanes specifically, but that lens of World War II airplanes gave him motivation to, like, it kind of spreads from there. And so in order to keep studying World War II aircraft, he studied World War II and World War II battles and all the players in World War II. And then he ended up learning why World War II happened and then what happened afterwards. So now he knows so much just European and world history in the modern times, just across the board, better than most kids who have taken like AP European history.
Yeah.
Because he dove deep into something that he was motivated to learn.
And I feel like that information sticks better. I feel like they hold on because they were interested in it, because they went deep and it all connects and makes sense. That is what they hold on to going forward as far as their like learning goes. They'll remember that longer versus studying for a test. Or
it's kind of like, so this image is coming into my head of like a little ant or something, some little bug that has the little antennae up. It's like when they're ready and when they're kind of activated, they have their little antennae up and they're kind of constantly seeking for more knowledge. So now if anybody says anything about communism or anything in Europe in the 1900s, like my son his little ears perk up and he's like, oh, let me talk. Like, let me hear. What are you saying about that? And so it really does kind of activate them and get their little bug antennae up.
I feel like it also really PBL in general really adds to their ability to be creative. I feel like they have so much more freedom and following their curiosity. Like whenever there's a spark, they can just sit in it and they can like ponder it and they can use that time to really be more creative with their ideas, their learning. And I just feel like creativity goes really well with project-based learning.
It really does. And I think part of that is because there's an emphasis on brainstorming built into the process. And so you're taught creativity explicitly. And I think one thing that I've learned over time is that there are some things that need to be taught explicitly. And sometimes those things are surprising. There are some kids who come built in with certain gifts and certain talents. They come naturally creative and they hardly need any instruction. They just kind of do it. But by and large, there's a whole suite of skills that most kids find helpful to have some almost like structures or protocols to help them reach their potential in those areas. Like if you think about a lot of the way we talk about mindfulness now and growth mindset and how a lot of us have some like talk tracks or protocols that we use in certain situations to help our kids develop those skills. Creativity, time management, leadership, the ability to break down a task, giving and receiving feedback. A lot of these are skills that it's tempting to think just come naturally to kids. And so if you just, radically unschool, or you just let kids follow their passions, they'll develop those. And they might, but if without kind of structures, it'll take a really long time, because then it's just them hitting up against failure to learn things. Whereas if we can implement some guiding structures, some help, some, like we like to call it scaffolding, some of those things that the adults provide to help structure that learning, it can expedite that learning and they'll just take off. Have you heard of transferable skills before?
Like going into the real world, things that they're going to need to know?
Yeah. It's kind of, so transferable skills is so there's your academics. There's your things that high schools teach you that they test you on. Most of those are not transferable skills. They're like, let's learn when the Revolutionary War started. But transferable skills are things that you might learn in one job or one setting, but you can take them everywhere you go. And they will apply to almost any job, or at least to many jobs. So they could be things like they could be things like communication, problem solving, leadership, time management, even some, like those are soft skills, but even some harder skills like digital literacy or technology or computer skills. I would even lump in some like certain art skills, like some of the basic transferable skills that carry over to many different areas.
When you say art, I'm thinking like design, and even like how many of our kids can use Canva really well now after having to do it for projects that they've done.
Yeah, they're better than we are.
Absolutely. Some of them are. Yeah. And I think so many of those transferable skills go hand in hand with project-based learning. So much of the collaboration, you need those soft skills. You need the communication and the problem solving and working through, like, there are going to be problems in a project. You're going to run into things that you don't know how to do, and you have to figure it out. And that may be through research or a workshop or getting experts involved. And that's exactly what we're doing with project-based learning.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense, because if you're doing real world work, you're going to be gaining real world skills.
Yep.
If you're doing real world work, you're going to be gaining real world skills. That's a tongue twister. You should try saying it.
And so you touched on like leadership and some of the like the collaboration, and so many families I know are looking to raise kids who have leadership skills. They see that in their child and don't know how to tap into that potential. And project-based learning really opens that door. I feel like I've seen so many quiet and shy kids, or kids that I just didn't expect to step into a leadership role within a project, and they thrive. And you're like, who is this child? It's awesome to watch and just see them shine, because you gave them an opportunity within a project to really step up and lead.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think some of the skills you get in learning about project-based learning allow you to be a mentor to your kids in a way that you might not have the confidence or feel prepared to do otherwise. I didn't. I feel like I've learned so many like tips and tricks for how to help my kids reach that potential, how to work with them on those leadership skills so that they're not just left floundering.
So have you seen any of these leadership qualities come out in your kids after a project that they've been able to, I know some of your kids are getting jobs now, and has that led into, those skills that are needed for those types of things?
Yeah, I think that there's something about so there's the skills of leadership, like leading a team and how to communicate and organize. And they're getting that, like, whether it's running a workshop for other people or presenting. There's a lot of presenting that naturally comes with project-based learning. So they get comfortable with communicating and talking to people. But then also there's a confidence that comes in completing a project and doing something that you're proud of and that's meaningful, that I think carries you into other spaces. So then when you go and you do a class, so many of our kids I've watched in other areas, when they go into theater, then when they go into another extracurricular activity, they end up becoming natural leaders because they have that confidence. They know how to talk, how to organize groups. If they just tell a group to go and do something, kids will start stepping up and organizing and making plans and facilitating that communication. I think another thing that it really helps with is character building. And that's an area that I know most homeschooling families really want. Like some people are homeschooling so that their kids will develop strong character traits. So how have you seen that, or what character attributes do you feel like?
Yeah. So with project-based learning, because so much of what you're doing is collaborative, and even when you're doing a project at home, like between siblings and stuff, you add a collaboration portion to the project. And I feel like they've had to they build empathy for each other. They're having to work through conflict and see things from somebody else's perspective and understanding things at a different level from somebody, like how somebody else is being affected by something you're doing. Or I have one child who, when he's doing a project, and my other son is, my one child likes to like distract him. And so then when I see my youngest standing up for himself and saying like, hey, this is distracting, I'm trying to get this done, like they can communicate differently with each other because they're gaining these communication skills through this project. They're building empathy. But going back to character, like I also know within a project, when I see an issue come up, I can put my intention behind that thing that I want them to really focus on. And sometimes we pull in Socratic discussion is a big one when we're working on character at home. And maybe I'll pull in a picture book or some kind of quote and we'll talk about it. I'll ask questions and have them discuss something so that we're really working on those character traits. But then really transferring that as a focus within our project so that I know that they're reinforcing that skill that we.
So those little lessons that you're doing at, circle time or morning meeting or whatever are immediately useful because you have things you're working on.
Yeah. And they have to collaborate maybe with each other or with peers at school. And then also at co-op, they're working through these projects and giving and receiving feedback. When they hear the feedback about how things are affecting others, like it makes them feel more like willing to adjust and fix things because others are relying on them for this project.
If you can get giving and receiving feedback within a family, there is some real power in that. So that's a very cool opportunity. And even just craftsmanship as a habit or a value, so there's something about having a real life project that will elevate your kids' work. I know I have kids. Maybe you don't have kids, but most of us probably have kids who could care less about their handwriting or about spelling, or I don't know what it is about capital letters, but we don't use them. They're like,
it's so true.
But if you are sending an email out to another professional asking for something or asking a question about a project, or if you know that this project is going to be shown like at the library or wherever you're going to present this, suddenly they care. Suddenly they do want to spell the words right. And they do want to have these lines straight. And maybe they'll actually use a ruler or whatever it is.
And it's amazing when they come to you and ask you how to do it because they know they need to know it. And now they're asking you to teach them, which is awesome.
It just totally flips the script. And it's such a nice, when it works, it's such a nice balance.
Yeah.
Also, just an aside, like what random cool skills have your kids picked up just because of projects that they've been doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, my kids can use all kinds of power tools and like we said about Canva design, I am amazed at their ability to navigate Canva. And then also like some things that made me nervous about giving them freedom to do, like navigating the internet. But when we are working through a project and we have intentional time about like, this is how we do it, and teaching them how we need to do it for a specific project kind of opens the door to like, hey, this is a skill you're going to have to eventually use. And now you're doing it and you're doing it with my help and some scaffolding and focus. But now I know you know how to do it if I need you to do it for something else.
I like that example. That's a good one. I feel like, like music production. I think one cool thing is party planning.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, you've got lots of party planners.
and they started with doing projects like, but the ability to plan an event is coming in handy all over the place.
The entrepreneurial skills that our kids have and the fundraising that they can do.
Yeah. They're way more willing to ask for money than I am. I think one concern that a lot of homeschoolers have is that we really don't know what the future is going to look like. And that's probably part of why so many of us are homeschooling as opposed to public school, is that we don't feel like public school is actually preparing kids for the future job market. And right now, that future job market, who knows what it's going to be? There's numbers being thrown around about how many jobs AI is going to take and how it's going to shift things. And I mean, I'm sending a senior out into the world, and I honestly have no idea what his life is going to look like that way. But I feel like project-based learning gives them the best chance they've got at whatever that future is.
Yeah, it makes them so adaptable, because I mean, I've seen through a project, like, you think it's going in one direction, and all of a sudden, because of a roadblock or something, now they're having to adapt and go in a different direction. And I feel like they will be able to dive deep into whatever it is that the future holds for them, regardless of AI or the job market or anything.
And I think it's because they know how to learn. Like, they know how to take on a project. It's not a challenge that they don't know how to do, because they know how to break it down. And if they say, well, that job's toast, now I need to learn aircraft mechanics. All right. How do I learn aircraft mechanics?
You don't have one of those. No. He actually loves it. He loves it, though.
It's true. But how do I learn that? And then they can actually just go and attack that. And they will, it'll probably be scary still, but they will have what they need to dive in and change and do what they need to do. So why is project-based learning so good for homeschoolers?
Yeah. So I feel like the flexibility it gives homeschoolers, the freedom it gives homeschoolers, the possibilities with project-based learning are endless. You can learn any topic, you can do any skills through a project, and it just gives you so much flexibility. So for example, right now, we want to take December off. It's so busy. We don't want to do, not that we follow curriculum very well anyway, other than math, but if we had a curriculum, maybe we would want to take December off. But we still want to be learning and putting focus on that. You have the flexibility to say, hey, we're going to do this project this month. And, you can tailor that. Hey, we need a little bit more history or a little bit more science. We haven't really been doing that. So let's put more of our focus on science, and you can do a project within that. And it gives you that ability to step back, try something different, and follow through on a project. And you have that flexibility.
I love that it's so lean. You need books, but you don't need a curriculum. You don't need a specific computer program. You just need your skills as a mentor and ideas and the real world. So,
and you can do it with your kids. Like, all ages can do the same project. You can make it a family project. You can tailor it to one child that might need it. There's again, the flexibility of the multi-age groups, being able to integrate it into your everyday life can be really easy, depending upon the project that you pick.
Like you were saying, it's great for multi-age groups, for like that one room schoolhouse thing. You can have kids interact with it at any age or any ability level, because there are different roles to play within most projects, which is pretty cool. It's cool to be able to do that and to still have everybody doing something meaningful.
And it's a great opportunity during those times when you are stepping back to build community. So you're oftentimes presenting something or sharing it, whatever your project is, in some capacity. And that's an opportunity to bring in the community, or, go out into the community to showcase what you're doing. So
I also appreciate that it's not all or nothing. Like, there are some philosophies or some curriculum choices that feel like this, if you do this has to be your whole world. And I do feel like project-based learning is a lot more, like you're saying, flexible. Like, you could pull this in occasionally. You could pull it in once a year and do one family project a year, and you would get so much benefit from doing that. Or it could be your entire homeschooling, and you could do everything through project-based learning. We still have a math curriculum. I basically make my kids do math, read something, and write something every day, and then we do project-based learning for the rest of it. But you can really have it be as much or as little a part of the day. It is a tool. It is something that I think more people need to know about.
I agree. Well, let's talk about who project-based learning is for. So what kinds of kids might benefit from project-based learning?
All right. So there's some that are dead ringers that you're like, oh, that's a project-based kid. We both have a couple of those.
Yeah.
But I think I have at least one that is, I wouldn't have pegged him as a, he's not one that's out there starting his own projects all the time necessarily. And yet he got so much out of project-based learning. So you can't just judge it based on that, but sometimes you can tell when it's like, oh yeah, you're perfect fit. Like even so academic kids who really thrive on workbooks and they just want to learn. Let's be honest, anything's going to work for them.
Yeah.
But it tends to fit them. PBL tends to fit them really well because it lets them follow their passions as deep as they want, but it also challenges them and asks them to step up and gives them the tools to go even farther. So if you've got a kid who's already a pretty academic kid and they're interested in learning at very high levels, they can actually do high level work that could end up in an internship. It could end up in actual published research. Like they have the ability to go to the stars with what they are interested in. What about kids who, is it still worth it though? If you have a kid who's not super academic, how does it help them?
Yes. So for the kids who aren't jumping and doing schoolwork or don't seem naturally motivated to do academics, this really helps tailor to their interests as far as like maybe you have a kid who doesn't want to touch anything history related, but loves stop motion videos. And they could sit and make stop motion Lego videos or whatever kind of claymation videos all day. You can take a project that they get excited about and tie the learning into it. So maybe your driving question is something academic. How do we learn about the Revolutionary War? And you're going to do it through a project that they're interested in. We're going to make a stop motion video about this. Well, now they have to learn the major players in the Revolutionary War. They have to maybe learn about a battle that they're going to create for it. They have to learn about the uniforms and like all the things that go into creating something. They have to learn the historical accuracy of it. But they're doing it in a way that gets them excited or motivates them on a different level rather than the academics. So I think those kids can get excited about something. You just have to find what it is and then put the driving question or the learning through that.
Yeah, it gives a meaning to the learning. And I feel like for a lot of kids, when they really see the meaning and how they connect to the material, they'll actually be interested in it. So it really helps unmotivated kids find that motivation and carry that motivation through chemistry or through the Revolutionary War, whatever it is. That's going to be our example of the day. Obviously, kids who enjoy working with groups or working with other people, I've seen a lot of kids who their motivation in life is social. And for them, it kind of gets that. They get that hit of being social, of learning how to interact better, even socially. And they get to learn while they're doing it.
Yeah, the collaboration and the figuring it out. And just the fact that they're coming together with either their peers or their siblings or friends, they are eager to please them in that social aspect. And, it motivates them to work harder, to have a better product coming out of it.
And even kids who aren't social in nature, maybe that's an area they actually struggle in. Sometimes a project can give them a structure to interact with people so that it's less scary, or so that they kind of know the rules of interaction, and that can be like a backdoor for learning those social skills and those reps for figuring out how to share ideas, how to not bulldoze with your own idea. Like there's so many of those softer skills that can be beneficial to those kids. Even if maybe it's not as comfortable, it's really what they need.
And I feel like the training that we've done as far as learning how to mentor kids through that process and knowing where and how to put our intention into that learning, that scaffolding that goes into a project, that is where you can say, okay, I really want my kids to have more of these social experiences, even though they don't naturally want to. I know I can push them in this way, and it's a little bit easier for them to obtain or, reach those goals.
Yeah. So it sure sounds like we're saying this is good for everybody.
It does feel that way. So are there times when project-based learning might not be a perfect fit for a child, or if it needs to be tweaked in some kind of way to make it work?
Yeah, I mean, you know your kid best. You know their kind of their limits socially, or how far they can be pushed. Some kids, you know, whether they have they're neurodivergent in some way, and so their mind likes to do what it has in mind, and it's not very flexible. Project-based learning can help push that a little bit. But for some kids, that can be a real struggle. Or if they're really not ready for collaboration, then maybe working on individual solo projects for a while, and then building up that stamina, or those skills to kind of start working collaboratively can help. So there's so many ways you can make it your own, and you can fit it to your kids. But I feel like projects are good for any family, even if it's just occasional projects.
Yeah, I feel like the roadmap and the concepts of project-based learning, when tailored to a specific child, can really work for anybody.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, and what about moms? Because whatever you do as a homeschooler, it should not only be a good fit for the kids, but it has to be a good fit for you as a mom.
Well, it's a really good fit for us because I was never able to stick with a curriculum to begin with.
Same.
We have gone through so many curriculums, and we try it for a little while, and I'm like, oh, this is so good and working. And then it doesn't work anymore. Or we honestly forget it's on the shelf. But so math, we, like Danica said, we also do math curriculum at home. So that is something that I want my kids doing on a regular basis. But project-based learning takes the pressure off of all the other academic subjects. We do also do a little bit of writing every day and making sure that the kids are reading. But as far as the rest of the academics, the science and art and history, I'm able to step back. I can let my kids run with a project. So especially like the beginning sometimes takes a little bit longer with like, you know, getting a project set up and the need to knows and making sure that they know where they're going with the project. But after that, it really gives mom a break because the project runs itself. The kids know what they need to figure out and do, and they run off and do it. So
I love that too. I feel like same thing. I can't stick with the curriculum. I can't stop tweaking it and changing it just a little bit. So for me, I love being able to just live and just to be really present with my kids and not be tied to a curriculum or to a schedule that somebody else says that I need to do. I mean, we do have our own schedule, but it's my schedule. We're able to make it our own. So I love that.
I never really liked the pressure of being like, oh, the end of the school year is coming and we have to finish a curriculum when we're diving deep in a topic or something that they're interested in. Like, why are we going to go back and do surface level on a whole bunch of other things? So it just, again, for moms, it just gives so much more freedom and flexibility in your homeschooling that it feels very natural to do it that way.
Ooh, I do know something that makes a really good PBL mom, and that is being willing to ask questions.
Oh, yes. That's key.
It is. That's like a really big defining line between families that it really works for and families that it doesn't work for. And is our mom and dad able to step back? Are you able to let your kids fail? I mean, we do scaffold, we do ask reflection questions and feedback, and we might give them some protocols and things to do to help them succeed. But we're also very okay with them failing and letting them own that learning journey.
I feel like there's been so many projects where we've gotten to the end of the project and I was like, wow, this is all we have to show. But when you reflect on the project and you're like, look at the process we went through to get here. All of the skills that they learned getting to this point, that because, you know, our projects are confined by time or budget or space, and having the ability to say like, hey, we really worked on communication through this project and the kids got so much out of it, even if their product at the end, you know, wasn't everything we had hoped for, or if we had more time, we could refine it even more. So learning to step back and really mentor your child through those skills that they're learning and being able to step back and ask questions to try and help them get there has been really key.
Yeah. I think that sometimes parents will sabotage a project by owning too much of it or owning the journey. So, and I actually find it harder to do a project in an area that I care a lot about or that I feel like I have a special expertise in, because I do tend to own it. I think of all the cool places we could go, or that, you know, this direction would be so awesome. And then I'll start taking over a little bit, and then it loses the magic, and my kids don't care as much then.
Mhm.
So if I can really step back and let them be in the driver's seat, at the very least think they're in the driver's seat,
Yeah.
then it goes so much better.
Yeah, I feel like our best projects are the ones that the kids know more than I do.
Yes.
It's their favorite. It's my favorite. I am always amazed at where they go with it. And sometimes I think that there's no way this is going to be amazing. And it turns out so much better than I could have ever imagined because I didn't know anything about it. And they just took off with the learning. And it's so exciting to watch them get excited and see what they come up with.
Yeah. So being present, being curious, being kind of on your own journey is a huge thing for being a project-based mom, I would say. So we have so much more to share. We obviously love this topic. We don't want to leave a bunch of learning on the table that's easy to get if we just know some simple skills. So stick with us on this journey, and like us wherever you like podcasts.
I don't know. We're still learning.
This is our project. See ya. Well, that's it for episode 1. If you're feeling inspired and want to learn how to make this magic happen in your own home, check out our online course, Project-Based Homeschooling Basics. For $27 and less time than it takes to watch a movie, you can learn the tools and have a project plan for your own family. Start investing in you instead of just a curriculum. Find it at bramblewoodmamas.com.